Ah yes, the Elden Stars. It's been a while since I used such an incantation. I already made a challenge run video of it and also beat the game with it. So I thought it's time to step it up a notch and bring it into the DLC. So you heard it here folks, this is gonna be the Elden Star versus the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. I wonder who would win, beings of unimaginable strength being able to one-shot you, or a swarm of angry holy bees. So from start to finish of the DLC, the Elden Stars are going to be used to eliminate all major bosses. A very simple rule to keep in this DLC challenge run. My characters are already kitted out, but will that be enough for this new challenge? And now with this intro pretty much over, this is Warnock Gamer 4, and make sure to sit back, relax, and or listen as I use the Elden Stars to beat the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And with how much of a gamble this incantation is, let's see how that goes. Alright, to start off this challenge run, it's time to collect some Scadutree fragments, because using the Elden Stars without them is going to be a headache. And with a less than subpar incantation, I want to take all the advantages I can have. Also made a quick stop to the Church of Benediction in order to get the Blessed Blue Dew Talisman. At the time I didn't know whether or not I was going to need it, but in the future it proved to be very helpful for one enemy. Hello over Egon, how goes the legs? Pretty sure he doesn't really care about his legs, just mostly hating Bayle. Moving forward, I used Torrent's Mega Hops in order to gain access to Shadow Altus, and the reason for this is to collect more Scadutree fragments. Although I did get sidetracked a bit fighting this Ghost Flame Dragon, but fighting was a very strong word in this context. All I did was let the enemies fight each other, distracting them of my existence, and allow the Elden Stars to do all the work for me. Who needs effort when the enemy of my enemy is doing all the hard work for me? And as karma, I almost got taken out by a boar. You see, this is the reason why Scadutree fragments are important. If I'm not careful, even a boar can take me out. And after dealing with the mischievous swine, it's now time to continue taking advantage of my enemies fighting each other. Jesus, that was close. Eventually, after a while, the last Messmer Knight falls and I'm just left with an undead dragon. But it wasn't all so bad because he just got stuck down here. So I took an absolute full advantage. But that was until he remembered he was a dragon and can fly. But by the time it realized he was almost dead, and so falls the undead dragon. And for my troubles, I got a bunch of things I don't need and runes. And with that little distraction over, it's time to continue in succeeding and failing to collect Scadutree fragments. After a while, I leveled up my mind a little bit, collect a few more of the easy ones I have access to, and head into the Church of the Crusade to get a whopping 2 from 1 drop. But now I have to deal with a Fire Knight invader. Being quick on my wit, I decide to use the best plan, and that's an expertly maneuvered tactical withdrawal. And after some beautiful legwork, I just fortify my position, to which the enemy has fallen right to my trap. All according to plan. Please note the results may vary if you try this. That invader is an ass. Look at all the poor people that died to him. He also hits like a damn truck, and I know this because of my previous challenge run video. Anyways, after getting a few graces for the future, it's now time to conquer the Belorat Tower settlements, home to very large scorpions which have no business in being that large. It's been quite a while since I used Elden Stars. I don't recall it being this good. But if I do recall from the original Elden Stars challenge run, it's very bad at close range, so melee distance is a huge no-go. Anyways, after all the giant creepy crawlies, I made it into the tower settlement, then carefully made my way through the area because these guys hit like brutes. Elden Stars is slow, but at least it's doing work. And if I do recall, the Elden Stars can double down on damage occasionally, so I was getting very lucky with the star uses right now. Moving forward, I get front and back shotted by the same manfly thing. And the only reason why I'm over here is to get another Scadutree fragment. And after that, it's time for some Holy Stars against some bird golems. And it's actually very good against them. Not only does it seem like they're weak against it, if for whatever reason they attempt to fly trying to get to you, it's an instant knockdown. Damn, just look at that thing go. Also, it's surprisingly very good against these Horned Knight guys. They love to vibe check you, but now they're getting vibe checked by the Elden Stars. I don't know if it's because they're weak to holy damage, the absolute luck of the Elden Stars right now, or the fact that I have 80/80 Intent Faith with the Golden Order Seal. But whatever it is, it's currently working out very well with 0 Scadutree blessings. I am not trying it on the Beyblade Omen though. I am not risking that. The Elden Stars might be looking good right now, but there's one thing to it. Never trust it. I'm sure for the people that have watched the OG challenge run video for the Elden Stars know why, but to the people that haven't watched it or have forgotten, the Elden Stars is a very luck-based incantation. It can either deal normal damage in its end explosion, double damage, or no damage. And that's all because of the pretty little stars that follow the main body of the Elden Star. Not only that, but if you use the incantation point blank range, there's a high chance that the Elden Stars decides to poop itself on its tracking and just go into the ground and instantly explode. And with the incantation's damage dealing being in 2 parts, one being the little stars and the other one being the final explosion, that is horrible. Especially mounted on the fact that it's very slow to bring out and also costs a lot of FP and spell slots for no reason. So yeah, a nice little quick reminder of it. It is not an easy incantation to use, at least on its own for runs like this. But enough about that, it is time to face the boss, which is the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, one of everyone's favorite reality check in the DLC. Mr. Dancing Lion guy was actually pretty slow, and by that I mean I stood as far away from him as possible in order to shoot out an Elden Star. But unfortunately for me, he hit hard. Very hard. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, it seems like having the Primal Glintstone Blade is not the plan here. The extra health helps, but I'd have to be better with my positioning and my dodging, even though it seems kind of bullshit. So for a bit of the pre-fight, I buff myself up, then quickly sit on the Grace in order to cover my FP. Use whatever else I need at the Fog Gate, then shoot out an Elden Star. I would have loved if the Elden Star explosion actually hit here, but it didn't. And now the rest of the fight is pretty much just waiting for him to do something pretty damn slow, like vomiting his attack. Sometimes I have to stay close and circle around the boss in order to make sure the Elden Stars fully hits. Ah yes, my beautiful double damage. And after enough health is taken out of him, he turns into the Avatar, and now he starts using lightning, which is the most dangerous time to use the Elden Star incantation because of his lightning throw. But once he swaps into winds, it's now a good time to throw stars at him. Which is very nice, if it actually hit though. And now next up on the elements, it's ice. Ice is particularly dangerous because of frost, but as long as I don't get hit, I'll be fine. And once he starts going crazy and using them all at the same time, that's when it's time to start panicking. Time to start panic rolling. Haha, it was all calculated. All according to plan. And now the rest of the fight is pretty much all the same thing. Shoot out an Elden Star while I'm far away, and once he starts attacking, I just start dodging. To the best of my abilities. Sometimes I feel like the camera in this game is the worst enemy to fight. And after some final double damage explosions, courtesy of luck, the Divine Beast goes down after about 14 minutes of fighting. I was also on my last legs here with no health flasks. Overplanned a little bit too much with the blue flasks. But as long as I got the stars out, if I died, I still would have won. And speaking of deaths, I've died 4 times. I did pretty well for 0 blessings. Well, with the tower settlement defeated, it's now time to head to Bonnie Village in order to start making my way into the Shadow Keep, which means I have to go through the church district, which as long as I'm sneaky enough is pretty easy to get through. Time to go up the elevator and now have access to both sides of the specimen storehouse. Made my way through the back entrance, and now time to get the grace for the front entrance. And since I'm here, it's time to go to a pretty hidden area in order to enjoy a nice coffin ride. And that leads me to the lower part of Shadow Altus. There's something I want here at the start of this location, but first I need to turn on this fire golem. For that, I'm going to need a cookbook at the rundown Traveler's Rest. in order to rekindle the furnace golem with the furnace pot. Now here I wanted to take him down in order to get a specific crystal tier, but unfortunately for me it's going to be a pretty difficult thing to do as all I can use are the Elden Stars. And with how easily I can just die to him, I'm not feeling very good about this right now. So maybe I'll come back to this later. In the meantime, it's time to head over to Castle Incest and make my way through this area full of ambushes. The amount of damage they do is absolutely unnecessary. I know I have 0 blessings, but still, come on. Random Soldier McGee here can pretty much just nearly kill me in one shot. This wasn't going to be a 0 Scadutree blessings run in the first place, so now it's time to start upgrading that. So now it's time to start collecting a few more fragments. I wanted to sample a little bit of Commander Gaius here. And of course he hits like a damn truck. But now is not the time for that. It's time to start going into new areas, collecting whatever freebies I can. And on my little list here for things to do, it says to start hunting for hippos. With 0 blessings they could one-shot me, or at least I'm pretty sure they can. But as long as I'm with Torrent, I felt pretty safe. And because the Elden Stars can just go on autopilot as long as it's locked onto something, it pretty much did most of the heavy lifting I needed it to do. It took quite a while, but at least it got the job done. And my reward for taking those guys out is Scadutree fragments. Now it's time to use them all up till I reach Blessing 12. And now with this newfound power, I die. Yep, what all the blessings do is pretty much just alleviate a bit of the pain. It increases your damage and defense, but I feel like the defense increase is a bit eh. But hey, the damage is up and I'm fine with that. Also, I could have won here if I survived a little bit longer.
Just slow on the death.
Well then, it's time to go back to the old grind, as heartbreaking as it is. So for the fight against Rellana, I brought out the jellyfish shield to help me out a little bit with my damage. For the first phase of her fight, she loves to walk slowly towards me. It allows me to safely use an Elden Star, and that is the perfect time to take advantage. Just look at that chunky damage. Very surprising to see from the stars. Also, I forgot to mention that occasionally, the main projectile of the Elden Stars, which is the main body, can deal some pretty good damage against enemies. The only problem with that, which is very comparable to all the other problems it has, the little baby stars ruin it. Gotta love the logic of hit registration priority, or something like that. Anyways, now here in the second phase, not only does she love to spam her magic, she's now pretty damn fast. No longer is she walking menacingly towards me, she's now making a mad dash menacingly towards me. And because of how small the arena is, there is not much of a good chance to get far away enough from her in order to shoot out an Elden Star safely. But that wasn't the only problem here. Whenever she tried to use her twin moons at me, if there's an Elden Star active, it just eats it up. It just outright eats it. You know, something could be said about the imagery I'm looking at right now, but I'm not gonna say anything, just use your imagination for it. Maybe that's why she spammed her twin moons a lot in this fight. But finally, after about 5 minutes and 15 seconds, she goes down. Oof, all that fighting worked out a sweat. Oh yeah, and also I only died 4 times against her. Great, now I have access to an area I already had access before. And now with Castle Incest done, it's time to head over to the Shadow View. Because now it's Commander Gaius' turn to face the Holy Stars. And it does a pretty good amount of damage against him because of his 0 holy defense. But that kinda means nothing because he has this one attack. Ah yes, the charging boar. Even if I dodge it, it is not safe to attack afterwards. With how painfully slow the Elden Stars were, I pretty much had to get hit by attacks in order to shoot out my attacks. And with me fighting a freight train that loves to charge at me, and the unfortunate randomness of the Elden Stars, I was pretty much always low on Crimson Flasks by the end of the fight. It also has a very specific timing to its dodge. Also, I'm pretty sure the hitbox of the attack extends a bit further than where the boar's tusks are. I got my ass kicked a lot in this fight. Always so very close, but yet so far. And to beat Commander Gaius, I decided to just cheese him. And all I had to do was get him stuck by the fog wall. And from here on out, just spam the Elden Stars at the wall. Occasionally the blast radius gets right through and actually damages the boss. And I thought here, hey, I discovered this cheese. But in reality, this cheese was actually very much known. There's also different places where you can do this. So I guess hooray for me for catching up with the rest of the internet. Didn't even know you can actually cheese him that easily. I had enough exchanging blows with the guy. I just wanted him dead at this point. And after about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, he goes down. I died 10 times against him, and his victory was a bit dull, but don't worry. The other fights are more exciting, especially the final one. And now, as rewards, Scadutree fragments. A whole 6 of them. With the spoils of war collected, I believe now is a good time to head to the Jagged Peak. And that means it's time to deal with everything that's dragon related. And unfortunately for me, NPC fights. Actually, I kinda forgot, the NPCs are kinda dumb against the Elden Stars. They only dodge whenever the stars initially come out, but then they eventually forget that they're getting pelted to death by something. Silly NPC invader, there's still a lot of dodging you need to do. With the minor roadblock defeated, it's time to head into the Dragon's Pit, then jump into a Dragon Pit, and then fight the same NPC I just fought. Luckily, he's not that bright because he could have just ended me there. And because of that foolish mistake, I was able to pop out Elden Stars. It took a bit to fight him, but luckily for me, the Elden Stars was actually being a bit generous this time. Gotta love me those confirmed hits. You know, how the Elden Star is supposed to work. And with that done, I'm now at the foot of the Jagged Peak. Now it's time to take some spring wells up. Time to fight against some dragons. In this dragon on dragon violence, I gotta support the underdog dragon, the dragon that doesn't have his health bar displayed on the bottom of the screen. The reason for that is because he has less health than the boss bar dragon. Also during the fight, they were pretty in sync trying to kill each other. Eventually, normal health bar dragon goes down, and all we're left is a nearly dead boss health bar dragon. And after a few more Elden Stars, he goes down. With that, we get the approval of Egon, laughing like a maniac, accurate to someone who hates Bayle, and it's a hatred of utmost passion. Once I've reached pretty much the peak, I level up my mind. And now it's time to fight Bayle the Dread, a pretty much half-dead dragon. Also here with me will be Egon. I decided to enlist his help here to see how it goes, and with Egon being an absolute unit just tanking hits left and right, debuffing the boss occasionally with Grail's Roar, and I'm pretty sure unable to die, meaning he's a very good distraction. It made fighting Bayle very trivial. This is pretty much how the Elden Stars is meant to be used, with someone having your back. Because of how easy that was with Egon, I decided to save and quit. And decided to do this on my own. Unless the fight is nearly impossible on my own, I'm not going to be summoning help. Poor Egon here won't get his kill, unfortunately. With his help, fighting the boss was easy. But now without it, it's just pretty much death all around. Since Egon is not here to play distraction anymore, I found that the best time to attack is whenever he sets the area near him on fire. And that gives me just enough time to pop out an Elden Stars. I could also send one out when he does his very slow tail whip attack, but he rarely does that, so I usually just try to bait him to do his fire attack. And to do that, I pretty much just stick to whatever is left of his right thigh. If he does the swiping combo and I'm too far in the right for him, that's another good time for stars. Not much else to talk about in the first phase, except for maybe the Elden Stars not working as intended. Here in phase 2, there are more opportunities for attacks, such as when he tries to dive bomb you, which if far away enough I can just send out an Elden Stars. A little too far away, but it's better than nothing. Breath drive-by is not punishable, and incredibly scary. When he tries to explode himself as well, is another good time to send out the stars. And with enough back-to-back hits, his stance breaks and he goes down for a bit, which is the perfect time for even more damage. And now the rest of the fight is pretty much just dodge attacks. Bait out attacks so I can attack. And praying for the Elden Stars to work. Fighting Bayle the Dread took about 9 minutes to fight. I ended up dying 9 times against him. And for me, surprisingly, first phase took a lot longer than second phase. Usually it's the other way around. With the big bad dragon dead, it's time to head into the Cathedral of Madness Metyr. We meet an old man here in order to do his side quest. I don't know if I had to buy all the spells he owned for the quest, but I did anyways. Then I head over to the Finger Ruins that's connected by the Cerulean coast. And here I blow into the hollow Swiss cheese finger in order to get the Crimson Seed Talisman +1. Going back to the old guy, he tells us to go somewhere else. But in order to get to that location, first I need to head over to Bonnie Village in order to get this gesture right here. And after using said gesture, a hidden path will open. This leads us to the second Finger Ruins, but also the Shaman Village. I took a little detour into the Shaman Village in order to get the Golden Braid Talisman to increase my holy defense. I got it as a just in case for the future. Now it's time to head towards the center of the Finger Ruins. You gotta watch out for those snipers though. The hardcore tracking the projectile has is absolutely crazy. But once I reach the middle, it's time to blow on the thing again. Then head back to the cathedral in order to press a button on the chair, which leads to a hidden little opening we gotta go into. Here I also get invaded by another NPC, but this one was pretty manageable. They were surprisingly slow and not bright. I wonder when they realized when they shouldn't take the hits. And after walking a little bit more in order to blow on the thingy-majig one last time, it's now time to find Metyr, the Mother of Fingers. And this fight was very boring. And not to mention, very slow. The boss was actually slow enough for me to just run away a good fair bit amount. And after I'm comfortable with the distance, just shoot out an Elden Stars. It didn't even matter if Big Mama Finger spawned her minions, because they were just pretty much as slow as her, just a little bit faster. This was very much a very simple and anticlimactic fight. I honestly didn't even think it was going to be this way. I thought it was going to be a lot more close call dodging. Even here in the second phase, when she twirls around to try to hit you, she can't keep up. She spawns her little balls, but they're very easy to just run away and ignore. And as for the I-beam attack, they're pretty easily dodgeable. But yeah, this was pretty much the boss. I was not expecting this. He didn't even try to use a giant laser attack, which actually I'm kind of surprised by that. Anyways, after all that quote-unquote fighting, the boss goes down after about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. This is by far the easiest boss I've ever fought against with the Elden Stars. Funny that's coming from a DLC boss that's actually pretty resistant to like all elemental damage, but that was dumb. And with the simple victory achieved, I now level up my health a bit. Then I head back into the cathedral to do a small 2-part boss fight, in order to make up for the boss fight of the area with its less than stellar performance. I'm pretty sure the Mother of All Fingers was senile when I fought her. And after the Invader is defeated, it's now time to deal with Count Ymir, who took the mantle of Mother of Fingers. This guy really loved to teleport around, but the Elden Stars just absolutely hard locks to the enemy as long as I locked on before shooting it out, which means he has no way of escaping it, and because of the lack of health that he has, he goes down pretty quickly. All of that was pretty much just an entirely odd encounter, and I'm so used to Elden Stars not doing well at all. With that over, it's time to head over to the Dark Light Catacombs, where it's very much more dark than light. I didn't need to bring a torch or anything, because I pretty much know the way through. And if I got confused a little bit, the glowstone will help me regain my bearings. Good thing too, because this place is dangerous. Good thing I have the Elden Stars to keep me company. And after reaching the final elevator of this catacomb, it's now time to deal with the boss of this area, which is Jori, the Older Inquisitor, along with his holy band of misfits and projectile spam. For the majority of this fight, all I really had to do was stand behind a grave and shoot out an Elden Stars. And as long as I locked on, it pretty much just did the rest of the work for me. I did have to make sure that the enemies don't break the graves, because apparently they're very fragile. They literally just walk over and it's just gone. And after shooting out an Elden Stars behind the grave, right as I was about to get body slammed, the Elder Inquisitor gets obliterated by my incantation, and now I have access to the Abyssal Woods, where unfortunately Torrent is useless here. In the Abyssal Woods, it's a good chance to get something that'll help me in the future. And after taking out the Maddening Hand NPC here, I get a Maddening Hand. I'll be keeping that in my pockets for now. Next up, I pick up some Scadutree fragments, then deal with the lanterns that are around this place. But in order to fight them and actually damage them, you gotta parry them once. But don't be an idiot like me and get killed right after. What I did dealing with these lantern guys was just parry them once, then just stay on top of a rock and let the Elden Stars do all the work. I did die a few times trying this, but I reduced the population of these guys pretty much down to 1. And I'll deal with that Singular 1 later, because at this point I did not know where he was. And with the path cleared up, it is now time to head into Midra's Manse. This area spawns some of the worst enemies to deal with at close range, but as long as you're sneaky about it, there is no problem traversing through here. And since I have the advantage here, might as well just bully one of these melee guys. The Elden Stars were doing a pretty good amount of work here. Right before the boss, I made sure to remove my shield in order to light roll. Now it's time to use the stars against the old man to start the fights. And it took like 5 to 6 star uses to actually take him down. And all of this is just before the fight. But after old man Midra is taken down, it's now time to find the Midra that is the Lord of the Frenzied Flame. And kinda just like Metyr, distance made this boss battle pretty easy. All I had to do was stand back a far distance and just shoot out the Elden Stars. Midra's nuke here nearly ended me, but that was pretty much the only significant damage here in the attempt. With Midra taking his sweet ass time just walking menacingly to try to get me, all that was pretty much just free damage real estate. There really wasn't much to commentate on this fight because it was very much as simple as it was. I pretty much just stay far and Midra gets pelted to death. It wasn't a whole lot, but it did take about 5 minutes to complete this fight. Poor Midra. He's a very cool fight in close quarters combat, but he suffers a lot against ranged attacks. With the Abyssal Woods pretty much conquered, it's now time to head over to the Cerulean coast in order to get to the Stone Coffin Fissure area that's nearby. Here, the laser security system is pretty top notch, but as long as I have cover, the Elden Stars can, not quickly, actually very slowly dismantle it. And I pretty much did that against all the laser shooting balls. Afterwards, I just dodged a few enemies moving forward. Ah yes, masterfully coded AI. Magnificent. Thanks From Software for the free incantation. Now before I plunge myself into the boss arena, I head back out and tried to deal with the Furnace Golem again. I was a tad bit stumped here trying to find out ways to take him down. I didn't want to spend a lot of time here, and when I realized they can actually friendly fire each other, finding that out, I tried to get them to hurt each other, but unfortunately the process was very slow. Trying to get the golems to hit each other's legs was not very time efficient. And one wrong move would just send you right to the loading screen. Time to do it the old-fashioned way. It was going pretty well at first until I screwed up and burned to death. That was a good 10 minutes down the drain. And then in the second time, the game just decided to die on me and just crash. That was 8 minutes of work gone right there. Third time fighting him up front went pretty well, except for the lack of damage that I do against him. But that's pretty normal because the Elden Star is just pretty much throwing a dice roll at the enemy. And finally, after about 30 minutes of fighting this thing, it goes down as I went to go take cover. And I get what I wanted, the blood-sucking crack tier, which is pretty much the power within of Elden Ring. You continuously lose the health, but you get some good damage. And the reason why I wanted that crystal tier was because I absolutely wanted to destroy the Putrescent Knight. And with this boss rocking a very heavy negative 20% holy resistance, I really just wanted to see it melt. Especially when he decided to just spam his boomerang attack 4 times in a row. It took a little bit to get used to fighting him again, but it was very much worth dealing with all that. As long as I dodge the Knight's first combo, it's all gonna be alright. Unfortunately for me though, the Elden Stars decides to not do damage in its first explosion. Second time around, I rolled that nat 20. Now all I need is one good Elden Stars and I throw it out at the best time possible.
Sword's not a boomerang, stop it.
As long as I dodge all the cold fire and the Elden Stars doesn't screw me over, I'll gain the victory here. And that's pretty much what just happened after fighting him for about a minute. You see, this is how Elden Stars should be. Difficult to use, but damn powerful. But unfortunately that's what it ain't, and I died 3 times in this fight. Great, off to end myself. And I had to do this about 4 times just so I can start hearing Saint Trina. Who knew that girl sweat can do this to you? And with that done, I tell Fiolier where she is, tell him what she said to me, pretty much then just dunk on the poor guy. He had no hope just using poison. Then go through his dialogue in order to finish his questline for now. Now next up I'm at the Shadowkeep storage area, where I pick up the secret right scroll. And after giving it to Ansbach for his questline, it's now time to set Leda on an attempted murder spree. And now with the horn scent demolished with absolute projectile spam, it's better to deal with him now than later, especially with Leda's help.
Now go and make yourself.
It's now time to betray Leda and help Ansbach in the next fight. Sorry Leda, but your reign of terror ends here. Also, Ansbach is a pretty cool dude. With that over, there's no more side quests to be done. I attempted to deal with Dryleaf Dane right now, but he just disappears. With all that questing over, it's time to deal with more boss fights. It seems like Golden Hippo here is immune to damage before his debut. So now it's just time to buff up and deal with the overgrown Hippo at the Shadowkeep courtyard. This boss hits quite very hard, and the slowness of the Elden Stars does not help. He's honestly not that different from all the other Hippos I've already fought. The only major problem here in this fight is that the arena is pretty small. He surprisingly has low stance though, because I was able to knock him to the ground in just 2 Elden Stars. In the second phase, the fight starts getting much more difficult as he just loves to charge around the area. His hedgehog roll deals an absurd amount of damage with it being able to kill me with just my current health. And miraculously, I was able to survive a grab against him. I was able to get the Elden Stars out occasionally, but through means of absolute luck. Or waited for him to use his more slower attacks. And after about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, he goes down. Hey, some more Scadutree fragments. Oh yeah, I forgot, I died 4 times against them. Great, now it's time to go deeper into the Shadow Keep. The only true way for progress is going up. And nothing's gonna get in the way of progress. Now, right before the main boss of Shadow Keep, I level up my health. Get the Flame Drake Talisman plus 3 for extra fire defense. And with that all obtained, it is now time to fight Messmer. I'll keep it simple while I was fighting Messmer. I died quite a few times. But after all those attempts, I learned quite a few things against him. And to take advantage of one of them at the start of the fight, I need a certain headgear. Almost ended up dying to a grab here when it dropped, and that would have been heart-wrenching. Only 15 minutes worth of farming, surprisingly. Black Dumpling boosts my damage if I'm inflicted with madness. The Maddening Hand that I got has the same boost effect. And there's one more thing that also shares the same effect, which is from these lantern guys. Had to parry him to do damage, of course. And after eliminating the one that is somewhat near the abandoned church, I get the Age 1 Exaltation, which of course increases my damage if madness procs. So at the start of every fight, I pretty much made myself go insane with the Hollow Shabriri. And once I go through the Fog Gate, I swap my talisman out to the Sacred Scorpion Talisman, then shoot out an Elden Stars because I have just enough time for one. And now all I can do now is pray for it to work as intended. And of course it doesn't. Maybe the second one will work? There we go, that's the way I like it. Shame that all that buffing at the start was worth nothing. And now for the rest of phase 1, I try to keep him near the Fog Gate at all times. The reason for this is because he can sometimes get stuck on the safety rails, depending on which attack he does. And that gives me a good opportunity to shoot out an Elden Star. Although it doesn't always work, unfortunately. So pretty much a majority of phase 1 is pretty much that. Believing on a railing to save my ass. And here it worked out pretty well. And now on to phase 2. At the start I run away for a little bit, and after gaining a good amount of distance I can shoot out the incantation pretty safely. Now in this part, Messmer has less holy resist than in the start of the fight. He goes from 40% resistance to 0. He's much more weaker against the Elden Stars now, but actually getting it to hit is an entire different story. In this part he moves too often and is sometimes invincible while turning into snake form. The usual dodging is needed here, but now there's giant snakes everywhere. And the one attack I want to really capitalize on is his backstep swipe, and he's actually pretty consistent in using it after his fire stab. So yeah, for me the rest of the fight is pretty much me against Messmer and the camera, hoping that the Elden Stars hit. It's also awesome, after many attempts, it's much easier to read his attacks. Nice little bonus here of him trying to dive bomb me from very far away. And finally, after about 10 minutes and 30 seconds of fighting, he goes down. Messmer the Impaler has been Elden Starred to death, and I died 38 times against this guy. The majority of them understandable. I failed. But some of them were a bit unreasonable. At least I believe so. I died in that one fight a lot of times, but the run must continue. Next up is the ancient ruins of Rau, which is surprisingly very short if you know where you're going. The rock kindred here are pretty much the only obstacle if you're just running right through. And now up the stairs to the left is the boss fog. And after setting myself up for that high damage, it's now time to fight against Romina, the Saint of the Bud. She doesn't really move much if I bait some of her attacks. But the one thing I don't want her to do is going roly-poly on me. Unless I'm close, the Elden Stars isn't good at keeping up with that. Trying to keep some distance away from her in the first phase is a bit difficult because of how quick she is on her feet. Here I was far away enough to use an Elden Stars while having enough time to react to her attacks. Although the stars didn't really do much. Even though it wasn't a complete hit, about 2000 damage is still a pretty good amount. Then the next time I didn't have time to react because of how slow the animation was. Well, lucky me, after 3 Elden Star uses, she's now up to phase 2. And in this phase, her butterfly attacks are slow enough for me to shoot out what I need. Now only if it could hit properly. The Elden Stars was not working with me very well in this second part of the fight. I really hate the gamble that it sometimes is. The rest of the fight is pretty much just me dodging while trying to get the main star to actually hit. At least the little stars are putting in some work, even though they are the main problem with the incantation. And after slowly but surely getting there, Romina goes down. This fight alone lasts about 10 minutes and 7 seconds, and I feel like it should have been over a lot earlier. Oh well, it was the first attempt, I can't really complain about that. Now it's time to set the tree on fire to unlock the final area of the DLC. Ah yes, suffering waits ahead. And now it's time to climb this place. And the Elden Stars right here was actually putting in some good work. I don't know, I feel like this guy went down a little too easily. Great, now it's time to level up health. Now it's time to continue climbing Inner Limb. Going up the stairs is pretty much the scariest part of this location. Aside from the boss, that is. No vibe checks for me this time. Next up, it's time to deal with a bunch of bird golems, which the Elden Stars just absolutely shit on. Ah yes, the one good use of Elden Stars. Bird hunting. Moving forward, I run away from my problems, but take a wrong turn. And after getting up the ladder, I continue on to the correct path. Not much resistance on the way up afterwards. But now it's time for the NPC battle. Here I bring out Fiolier and Ansbach in order to help me in this quote-unquote boss battle. It's honestly more of an NPC Showdown arena. On one side we got Dryleaf Dane and Letta, and the other side is me with the 2 companions I helped out. As long as the NPCs were distracted, the Elden Stars did some very good work. The first to go down on the enemy team was Letta. Then next up it was just a slaughter against Dryleaf Dane. And now with that fight over, where everyone's health was too damn inflated, it's now time for the final boss of this DLC. Feels like I'm missing something though. And that would be Radahn using Mohg's body. Look at his lame-o, he doesn't even have his horse with him. I don't have much of a problem fighting him in this first phase. Radahn's weakness right now is actually holy damage. In the first phase he has 0 defense against it. It only takes a few Elden Stars to take him down to the second phase. But this is where the biggest problem for me of the fight starts. Not only does the fight turn into a blinding light show, but equipping a Miquella on his shoulder, it gave him a 40 defense in holy. Getting to the second phase is the easy part of this fight, but outright surviving it is another thing. Not to mention unfortunate situations that came from this, such as getting stuck in a corner. After dying a good amount of times already, I think it's time to change strategy. So off to eliminate a tree avatar here at the Weeping Peninsula, just so I can get the Opaline Crystal tier. And with this I'll be able to tank one of Radahn's attacks. I was also thinking of using the uplifting aromatic as well, but actually farming for the materials that I needed would have been a hassle. And honestly, it's just the Arteria Leaf. The bubble worked pretty great, allowing me to tank one of Radahn's attacks, so I don't have to waste a flask for an unfortunate exchange. I still ended up dying for a good bit though. I decided to go on and get some Scadutree Blessings again. At this point I was at Scadutree Blessing level 16. At this point getting blessings would just min-max my damage. It's not by a lot, but every little bit counts. So I went out to hunt the rest of the hippo population in the game. as they all drop the fragments. After the big game hunt, it's pretty much just time to collect whatever is left of the fragments. And while on the collection spree, I completely forgot about the church district in the Shadow Keep. So it's time to bring down the water, collect the shadow fragment on the statue's hand, and make a sprint to where I need to go. Hello, Scadutree Avatar. I can't believe I almost forgot you. Seems like he's happy to see me. The fight wasn't that difficult, but he did have a standard resistance to Holy, which is 40%. I thought he was going to have a bit more with, you know, him being the Scadutree Avatar and all. But I guess that title doesn't really mean much. As long as I keep on hitting the head, everything will go fine in this 3-part boss fight. First phase was an easy takedown. In the second phase, he loved to charge at me. And now also has follow-ups to his attack, but that actually helps me out, allowing me to shoot out an Elden Stars. But I do have to be careful with his thorny attack because that can just delete me with the blood loss. In this fight, what I really want to be hitting is the head. Hitting the head deals an extra 50% damage according to the wiki, and what I want to avoid hitting is his body or his stem, which has a 66% resistance to damage. All I can do now is just hope for the Elden Stars to explode at the right location. With phase 2 over, it's now on to phase 3, where the Shadow Sunflower now explodes, but that gives me opportunity for some damage. But that's as long as it stands still, because as always the Elden Stars is slow. When he's less than half health, he now explodes 3 times, which just means more dodging. But as long as I have the timings right, everything will go well. And after about 10 minutes, the Scadutree Avatar goes down. I only died 2 times against this boss that I almost forgot to fight. With that all said and done, it's now time to collect the last of the Scadutree fragments. Now it's time to level up a single point in endurance, then bring my blessing up to 20, and now it's time to go back at it again against Radahn. I will always hate his illegal swipe attack. Also his pain train. I love you From Software, but please fix your bloody game. A very good attempt down the drain. Alrighty, so for the fight against Radahn, I buff myself up real quick, and then sit on the grace to recover my FP. Make a mad dash to the fog gate with my physic already active. And for the first phase is just hoping that he doesn't attack me out of nowhere, without me being able to react to it. At that point it's just luck on what his AI tells him to do. So I'm just a slave to Lady Luck right now. All of his attacks in phase 1 are unsafe. But after 3 normal hitting Elden Stars, I still have my bubble active, and now it's on to phase 2. In this phase, there's only 2 attacks I can respond to, lest I want to be deleted. And one of them would be the Michaela Nuke of Light. And the other one is the Clones of Light charge. But for that one, there is a risk, depending on how fast I react to it. All this fight is now is an endurance battle. My bubble took the hit of one of his most bullshit attacks, and now it's just time to survive. I'm gonna leave the rest of the fight uncut, just because of how hellish it was. Not only that, but there's not really much for post-commentary here anymore. It's just an insane battle of I don't even know what the hell's happening at times. From this point on, it's about 7 minutes worth of fighting, so enjoy. And there you go, this fight lasted about 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And it actually took me 25 attempts to actually beat Radahn.
Did it.
I honestly thought I was gonna die a bit more here, at least compared to Messmer. And after that death montage, that is it everyone. I have beaten the DLC with the Elden Stars. It was not an easy task, I'll very much say. And if I did this before the previous challenge run video, which is the round rock video, I would have been here for a whole lot longer. Those round rocks really taught me a lot, and those skills very much transferred over for this video. It's a shame that that video didn't get much viewership, but oh well. I was able to do it, and I'm happy because of it. And also I enjoyed sharing this experience with you, my viewers. This entire challenge run was just an entire wave of difficulty. At some points it was just very easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm mostly looking at Metyr for that one. Also Gaius because I cheesed them. And other times the difficulty really stepped up a notch. Such as Bayle, Messmer, especially Messmer, and Radahn. It also doesn't help that the Elden Stars is very much a very gambly incantation to use. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm sticking with it. But in the end, RNGesus was there to provide me victory at the end, and I'm very much happy for it. With that all being said, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys look out for any more videos that I might post out later. I hope everyone enjoyed this video, as it takes a bit to post these out. This has been Warnight Gamer 4, and make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell notification for alerts. Every little bit helps, and thanks for watching. Ciao.